pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just note that all councilors are present with the exception of Councilor O'Halloran. It is an excused absence, so we'll just note that. Item 3 is rules of order. We follow Robert's Rules of Order and all rules that we adopt at our organizational meeting or at other times. Item 4, adoption of the minutes from the following meetings of the Ellsworth City Council, 12/19/2022, regular council meeting.
Move to approve.
Yep.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Item 5, city manager's report. Manager Mosher.
Thank you. Good evening, councilors. I have a lengthy report, so I'll try to move through it as quickly as possible, but some interesting information to pass along. So for general announcements, the City Hall will be closed next Monday, January 16th, in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, which is the reason why we are here tonight. So City Hall will be closed on Monday. As a reminder to our citizens, our users anyway, the new water rates become effective as of January 1. So they'll see that reflected in their next bill. We are very pleased to announce that the city has been awarded $1.77 million of congressionally directed spending for the High Street wastewater pump station. This upgrade will ensure increased protection of the city's waterways and will allow for more growth in the High Street area, which is continuously growing. On behalf of city staff and myself, I would like to thank Senator Angus King for his support on this project. Without his support, this project would not be possible. So thank you, Senator King, for that, and we look forward to that project, which will be you'll learn more about in the coming months. As we talk about growth in the High Street area, Crazy Sumo is scheduled to open in the next 2 weeks. So exciting to have another dining option here in the city of Ellsworth. And then some upcoming projects, just to let the public be aware that the Public Works Department is getting ready to receive bids for reconstruction of the Christian Ridge Road, and that's the portion from the Bucksport Road down to just around Grant Street, for those of you who are familiar with that roadway. This work will be an extensive project on Christian Ridge, which will hopefully begin late spring. It will take several weeks to complete the project, and I would expect pretty significant traffic delays in that area. So it's important that people have that on their radar, and we will certainly report out more as we have more on possible construction dates and so forth. Our Public Works Department is also seeking a proposal for a concession at the Harbor Park. The RFP is due this Friday at 10 a.m. So anyone interested in pursuing an opportunity to sell food at the park should look for that RFP and get that in by Friday. And we are also seeking applications for community members to join the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. This committee will work on the update of our comprehensive plan, working closely with the planning department and several consultants working on the project. Applications are available online and in paper form in the planning office. Applications are due February 7th. Any questions, please reach out to our city planner, Matthew Williams. And finally, on a somber note, we regret to inform the council and certainly anyone in the public who hasn't heard of the passing of Myron Grant. Myron, as most of you probably are aware, was a longtime city employee and was the highway foreman for our Public Works Department. He was admired by all who knew him and worked with him and will be sorely missed. Our thoughts and condolences go out to the family. That's all I have, sir.
Any questions, comments? All right. Item 6, committee reports. Anybody have reports from any committees.
Mr. Chair, I have a few. I'll keep them brief as well. The rec committee met last month. They set new dates for the Christmas parade next year. Will be on December 2nd with an alt date of the following day, December 3rd at 4 p.m. They worked on purchasing a new liner for the ice rink, but due to supply chain and other issues, it won't be available until after the ice season, unfortunately, this year. So they're pushing that to next year. That'll be at Knowlton Park again. Unfortunately, we won't be having the ice rink available at Knowlton Park this year. Instead, Woodlawn Museum has offered to host in some capacity on their pond the ice rink, appropriating some funds from the rec committee for advertising signage to identify where the rink is, and some activity nights with lights and hot beverages and s'mores and things like that. The Historic Preservation Commission met last month as well. I learned some interesting facts. This was my first meeting with them. There's just over 1,000 houses and other buildings in Ellsworth that are over 100 years old, and dozens of houses that are 200 plus years old. You will see on the council agenda, item number 12, encumbrance of several funds. Part of those are for the historic preservation. There were $6,000 worth of unused funds that they're hoping to push into the next fiscal year. These funds are bound for the CARMA, C-A-R-M-A survey, which is a survey done by trained surveyors to take note of structures and other historical buildings with potential historical preservation requirements. This is a necessary step in the process of designating historical areas and buildings, and would be the first step in making headway on state and federal recognition, which could bring funds in for historical preservation. Communications Committee has not met, but we are discussing dates, one of which is January 24th at 6 p.m. We'll obviously let City Clerk know to schedule a public notice, and Manager Mosier as well, who may help us identify staff from the city who could attend as well. So we'll be in communication about that. But we created a temporary or partial agenda, which we will also publish at least a week before the meeting when that takes place. I think that's all I have there. Thanks.
That's great.
I just have one thing from the library, that this Thursday at 4:30, there's a welcome reception for our new director, Sarah Lesko. So in the Riverside Room at the library.
I would like to mention local roads committee about getting a meeting together and try to get ahead of the budgeting process for this year, see how much we can get put into the roads. We could get.
Yep, she just, actually, Lisa and I just had a conversation about that a couple days ago. We're planning to work with you, actually, to consult with you to schedule a meeting, so.
Good. Perfect.
Anything else? All right. Item 7, citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for anybody from the public that wishes to comment. You can comment on any subject. If it's on the agenda, you'll have an opportunity at that time. But feel free to come to the podium, say your name, and you'll have about 3 minutes to speak.
Hello, my name is Juliet Wilbur. I am a resident of Ellsworth. I am also the current Hancock County Register of Probate right across the street at the courthouse. And I also wanted to let everyone know that I'm also the chair of the Ellsworth Republican Town Committee. It's a new year, and I was elected in 2022, so I just thought this was a good opportunity to reach the people that watch these meetings, that attend these meetings, let them know that I'm the point of contact, and that I'm looking to hold meetings, solicit ideas where people would like to meet, things that they'd like to organize on and address. And I also wanted to raise awareness of the Hancock County Republican Committee meetings. They are on the second Thursday of every month, so just this upcoming Thursday, I'll be there. I'm there every month. But if anybody would ever want to talk about Ellsworth business or anything like that, I am there early at 6. You can always come over to my office at the courthouse. It's open 8 to 4. And you can find me on Facebook at Juliette Wilbur, Registry of Probate. I'm interested in all ideas and meeting new people and hoping we can foster connections and growth in this area. Thank you so much and have a good evening.
Good evening, happy Monday. It's good to see all of you. I see some new faces, that's fantastic. My name is Sharon Cadis. I am Development Director for Down East Community Partners. We're the CAP agency here in Hancock County, and we also span Washington County. But you may know, we have a fundraiser to benefit the Thaw Fund. That's the Heating and Warmth Fund, coming up at the end of February at the Grand. That's February 25th at 7 p.m. Doors open at 5:30. And the need this year is just astounding. It's actually very grim. Last year, the need was 200% over the year before. This year, we are on track to be 200% over last. It's just, it boggles the mind. So I was hoping that the city would join in a sponsorship for this event. I believe you're considering a motion later in the evening, and I wanted to say that the need is just off the charts, and to make that personal for you, I sit across the way from the people who answer the phone all day, every day. And we all know someone, I'm sure, who's having difficulties heating their home and this winter. And it's great that the state is going to be stepping up. That's fantastic. It's not going to be enough to get people through to May. It's just not. Not with the amount that it costs all of us to heat our homes. So the Thaw Fund is an emergency heating fund, and that is for 100 gallons of heating oil, or the equivalent if you heat with propane, or you use wood pellets, whatever that looks like for your home. And seniors in particular are struggling on their fixed incomes to cover this expansive increase in heating costs. And we're hearing from, like, the couple in their 80s who called the other day, and when we ask, as we're required to, you know, do you have any fuel left in your tank, and when was the last time you had a delivery? And they said, we've been out since June. And we were too proud to ask before now, and we're desperate. So that's the type of need that we're seeing. And anything you could do for a sponsorship would be very much appreciated for this event. And we're going to have a night of live music. Chris Ross, who's a local boy, Carolyn Cotter, who has relocated to Ellsworth, and other performers. So come out, support the event personally, purchase tickets. They went on sale this morning at 9 a.m., and we would love your support. Thank you.
Good evening, councilors. I'm Mary Blackstone. I live here in Ellsworth, and I'm here this evening representing Green Ellsworth. In 2021, Green Ellsworth released a 10-year green plan for strengthening the sustainability of our community, and we produced that through the consultation with numerous citizens, as well as lots of volunteers who were involved in the process, and 9 partner organizations. Initially, the City of Ellsworth was a co-partner with the Ellsworth Garden Club in initiating the green planning process. And so that's why I'm here tonight, to make sure that we report back to you folks. The Green Plan contains specific recommendations and timelines for addressing those recommendations, and it identifies the particular organizations responsible for doing the work necessary to realize those recommendations. The city is one of the partner organizations for Green Ellsworth, and so along with the city, numerous of our partner organizations, as well as individual volunteers, have been busy in the past year trying to realize the recommendations. So I'm here tonight with an annual report. That was one of the recommendations in the Green Plan, that we provide an annual report each year on accomplishments. And so the document in green ink that you have in front of you is kind of a reasonably full listing of the sorts of activities that we've been involved in. And I thought as part of this oral report, I would just point out some of the ways in which, some of the areas in which the City of Ellsworth has contributed to realizing these goals. The goals are not specific to Green Ellsworth. We're simply looking for things to be accomplished, and whoever accomplishes them, we're grateful for that. And so I just want to express that gratefulness. With respect to water, this year the work with respect to the Branch Lake Dam was a bit of a surprise to council, probably not on the original agenda, but that was actually, what you've approved has covered 2 recommendations in the Green Plan. The 2021 Green Plan anticipated the need for repairs, assessment and repairs to the dam. With respect to land, we want to thank the city very much for increased efforts with respect to tree planting and urban forestry planning. Ellsworth this year was designated a Tree City USA. That's in May of 2022, and that really requires a big thank you to Lisa Sekulich and the Public Works crew, whose efforts in tree planting, along with our volunteers and follow-up watering, had a lot to do with our capacity to qualify for a Tree City USA status. Given the activity around our community tree nursery, there'll be a lot more planting in the future. We're growing on trees for our city streets and our parks. With respect to food and farming, we've initiated an activity in conjunction with the USDA, which actually contacted us after having read our Green Plan chapter on food and farming online. They're working with us to assist in the development of a prospectus for a nonprofit food hub in the Down East area, hopefully in Ellsworth, providing local, really supporting local food systems and our agricultural and food and beverage economy. It's anticipated that a feasibility study will be the first step in that process, and we're working closely to develop relationships and partnerships with state organizations and federal funders. And thanks to Jana Richards for her input into that prospectus.
Mary, I just want you to, you've gone over, but I'm going to let you continue for
okay.
maybe another minute.
I'm almost finished.
And I'll be fair to everybody else and give everybody else the same time, but I just wanted to.
Thank you. With respect to transportation, Councillor Lyons mentioned the Local Roads Committee. We just want to do a shout out to that committee. Many of the recommendations that they made towards 2023 activities are actually addressing directly recommendations in our Green Plan, and we think that's a great bit of work that committee was doing, particularly addressing Branch Lake survey recommendations. The Energy and Waste Management group wants to congratulate the city on the actual flicking the switch with respect to solar power. And hopefully that will save the city money for the next 20 years that can be put to other uses in the city. And finally, the big congratulations to the city and thank you has to do with funding and initiating the comprehensive plan. That was a major recommendation in our Green Plan, and it will make a big difference in our capacity to be a sustainable community in the future. The Green Plan was initiated by the Planning Department in 2017 with the idea that the Green Plan would become a framework document that could inform the comprehensive plan. So congratulations to the city, and I hope you find the rest of our report with respect to other activities interesting.
Thank you for that, but I would also, this came up with the previous, last time. You might want to get on the agenda for next year when you present the report, so you have the time to present it and council can engage.
Would certainly welcome that
rather than just a
opportunity.
3-minute.
Thank you. We'll be back, we'll be communicating with you shortly with respect to our annual budget advice document, not asking money for us, but suggesting where you put your money. And so a workshop with council around that budget advice document would be beneficial from our standpoint, and I hope it might be beneficial from yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nancy Norris, and I've moved back to Ellsworth from California, where I put solar panels on my roof, used the solar panels, they were used by the company Sunrun, and a year after saving a lot of money by having solar panels on my roof, I was charged what was called a true-up fee from PG&E that amounted to well over $2,000 for the year. And I'm here because there was an announcement, wherever I read it, it's one of the local newspapers, online, about how you were going to talk about solar today. Unfortunately, I couldn't hear anything you guys said because I'm rather hard of hearing. So did you talk about solar?
Not yet. It's
There
on
was-
it's on the agenda for later in the, on our agenda. There's a presentation on the ordinance
Today?
today, yes.
Oh, okay, well, I don't really have much to say, except that, ouch, it hurts when you don't know that something like this is coming along, okay? No one gave me, the company that installed it, I read the news, nothing. I'd never heard anything about this. So I just recommend that if you, go with some kind of program, they tell you how wonderful it is, doesn't it sound nice to do solar? It sounds like a good thing. But I was paying money to PG&E because they were sad that they weren't getting the money that they had been getting from me. And so I was reading there's no other explanation to it. So, good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Robin Snyder Drummond. I live in Ellsworth, Maine, and I am interested in the solar ordinance. I had corresponded with Matt Williams about what's written in the ordinance, and I'm not sure if there's been revisions since October of 2022. I liked that the ordinance said that there's space underneath the fences so that small animals can still migrate. These are recommendations from Audubon and MOFGA and other conservation groups for respectfully using the land for solar arrays. So space for animals to continue migrating, that's in your ordinance. It's not clear if it allows for pollinator plants. The question that I asked Matt about was, he said something about the mowing schedule. As I understand it, you don't really have to mow pollinator plants very much. You want them to spread, but let's be clear about that. I think you should make use of the land with pollinator plants. And the third thing is, it's really important, and I know Surrey is working on this right now, that we consider open land as the last place for solar panels. What about, can we do something with rooftops? I know that putting them above a parking lot is super expensive, but is there some way that we can coordinate with the high school, or I guess Hannaford and Shaw's is private, but we really need to keep open land open and consider other uses for solar panels. So those are my main concerns. If you've already made those revisions, I couldn't find them online, but as of October 2022, those are my concerns. So I would like to hear what you have to say. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Heather Florio. I am the CEO of the local company Desert Harvest, and we own the old main grind building over here. We are requesting that the town opt in for adult use cannabis and adopt an city ordinance accordingly. We currently are conducting clinical research on cannabis at McGill University that we've been doing for several years now, and are looking to bring that research into this town with an option for adult use cannabis. And just to give you a background, for us, we're looking to potentially open a location, bringing that research, as well as my husband here is former law enforcement with a very long, illustrious career. And so him and I are both looking to bring both our research and our initiatives here, but to do that, we would need the town to adopt in and accept an adult use ordinance and adopt into adult use. So what I've provided you here is from the Office of Cannabis Policy from the state of Maine. This is detailing how they can cover the costs up to $20,000 of the town opting into the program and how all those costs can be covered. As well as, I know that you guys do not get sales tax revenue, but this just gives you a rough idea of what sales have been like in the state just in the past year as well as the past month. Just to give you an idea, almost $160 billion or $1 million last year in this state in cannabis sales, and we are considered a cannabis desert, but at the same time, we are also considered a cannabis sector in which, because of the tourism revenue, you can see that the largest months of cannabis sales are happening obviously in our summer months and then our fall months when we have the largest populations here, and the nearest cannabis store is resulting in people on Blue Hill Peninsula, Deer Isle, MDI, having to drive all the way to Bangor as its nearest location for adult use recreational cannabis, but there's a plethora of liquor stores on every corner. So this is just asking that we could look into potentially adopting this into the town, and I would be willing to discuss further with anybody that would like to discuss our plans, our research, and what we've been working on as a company. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cara Romano. I'm the Director of Heart of Ellsworth, our downtown organization. This evening in the board packet, I included a project that Heart of Ellsworth just concluded last year. We conducted a feasibility study for a makerspace. In 2022, we set out to conduct this study that was structured to identify interests and the intention to contribute to the area's creative economy while supporting area artists, organizations, businesses, and the Down East community. We received funding from the Maine Community Foundation and had the support of more than 50 volunteers throughout the project's year-long duration. We had a total of 12 statewide and local partners. To name a few, we partnered with the Rue Institute, Maine Crafts Association, MDI Biological Lab, Coastal Enterprises, Inc., and SBDC, and then locally, architect and designer Carla Haskell of the Design Group Collaborative on Church Street here in downtown Ellsworth. The report outlines research into the viability of a makerspace in Ellsworth, and it charts the next steps to bringing a makerspace to fruition. There were 2 surveys that were conducted that were somewhat kind of one of the highlights of the whole study. One was for the community. We had 95 respondents, and the second was to area artists, and we had 62 respondents, with all of the data being in the feasibility study that you folks have. The study concluded that a makerspace in Ellsworth would indeed be a valuable addition to the city, in particular located in the downtown area so that it's walkable to restaurants, entertainment, the river, and so forth. So more than happy to field questions offline. I know you folks have had a lot of public comment period today, so happy to take any questions or do another presentation later on.
Cara, because you, like that last meeting, you gave us a big packet too. It would be, and I know we have a workshop coming up with you, but these are really interesting, but if you could come onto the agenda so we could talk with you, and like if we got this ahead of time, and it would be really great. And it was the same thing with Green Ellsworth. These are really incredible opportunities for the city, and it would be really great to have a little more time to discuss, find out what the what you need from the city and what we can do to help you with these things and move them forward. But it's really hard when you do it like this, but.
New
you know,
council, new year. It's a wonderful thing. So
I
thank you
mean-
thank you
Yeah.
for your enthusiasm and your interest.
Sure,
And I
yeah.
appreciate the direction as well,
Yeah.
because it's, as I said, it's a new council, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gar.
Anyone else? All right, seeing none. Jude?
Could I add a motion concerning the Town East partners? Is this the right time for that?
No, is it on our agenda?
It's not
No.
on the agenda. It would be a motion to add it to the agenda.
Oh,
by
okay.
unanimous vote.
Yeah, we can do that now, in terms of, we should do it at the beginning, so people know, but we can take that up now, so if you want to make that.
Is there enough of us here that,
6 or more, I believe, is the
okay.
cutoff.
I didn't know if it had to be a full council.
Well, it has to be unanimous, and with the council here, so we can go ahead, field the motion, and go from there.
Mr. Chairman, I move to consider Down East Community Partners' request of a sponsorship of the THAW program to warm a winter's night.
So
So your
before we.
motion is to put it
To
on the agenda?
put it on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I move to put on the agenda
Okay.
consideration of Down East Community Partners.
Second, if that needs a second.
It does need a second. So, we have a motion and a second to add an agenda item. Any discussion?
Just to clarify, this would need to be unanimous in order to be considered agenda item this evening.
So I do have
Councilman.
something to say. I am in complete support of this, but I don't think it should be on the agenda. I don't think we can put it on, we can if it's voted on, but I'm not in support of putting it on the agenda. Just because if we do this, then you're gonna have all of the nonprofit organizations coming in and asking us for additional money outside of the budget process. So I'll write a check today for, and I think if there's some money within the budget, that we can look at it other than coming through the council that way.
But I
So
think, so if it doesn't,
Just
sorry.
before we go down the road of debating whether you're for or against the idea, this is a discussion on whether or not we want to add it to the agenda. So that's what the discussion should be. If it passes with a unanimous vote, we'll have a chance to debate the issue itself.
And I was just gonna add, if it doesn't pass unanimously to be on this agenda tonight, the actual event is not until the end of February. So
It can be put.
one could add it to the
Oh,
agenda next
absolutely.
month to
Yes.
discuss.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
They did express the need for figuring out what their sponsorship would be as early as possible, but I'm sure they would be happy for it later as well.
Okay, so any discussion, any further discussion about putting the agenda? All those in favor of putting it on the agenda? All those opposed? Motion fails. All right. Item 8, presentation of awards. We have one award, and I do not believe she is here, but I would like to read the presentation. City of Ellsworth proudly presents a certificate of service to Marcia Monk in recognition of your 5 years of service as Deputy City Clerk and Public Works Administrative Coordinator for the City of Ellsworth. Your devotion to duty and loyalty to the community have contributed to the improvement of the City of Ellsworth. Presented this 9th day of January 2023, and we'll make sure that she receives it. Oh, sure.
Yay, Marsha. Yay, Marsha.
All right, unfinished business, consent agenda. Consent agenda, all items with an asterisk are considered to be routine will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Number 9, Council Order Number 010922, request of the City of Ellsworth Housing Authority for confirmation of the appointment of Carol Manson as a tenant representative to the Ellsworth Housing Authority Board with term to expire September 1st, 2024.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. All right. New business. Item 10, Council Order Number 010903, request of the tax collector to review and accept bids on property located at 16 Fifth Street.
Hello, I'm Sue McLean, tax collector. So we put out a request for bids for 16 Fifth Street. We received 11 sealed bids. They were opened on December 30th. The minimum bid, the lowest bid, which was also the minimum bid, was $19,024.01. And then the highest bid, which is obviously what I'm recommending, was $111,114.68. So now, I need to know what to do. I don't know what your recommendations are or where you want to go with that. I believe you have a list in your packet of all the individual bids and.
I just have a question, because I know, as we've talked about this at previous meetings, there was some, I think, desire from the council for the house to be sold to a family that would live in it. And I don't know whether we have any control over that, like, we're really just, rather than having it be an Airbnb or things like that.
Right, I don't.
And maybe we just don't have any control over that, so maybe that's not worth
Yeah,
discussing.
I don't remember that comment, though. I'm not sure. Maybe there was, I know there was.
Yeah, we did have a discussion about looking for, in the future, putting some sort of parameters around city-owned properties when we put them out to bid.
It was a general conversation, yeah.
That, it was not followed with this procedure because there was interest in this particular property from family, and the ordinance requires that we go out to sealed bid. So we moved forward with putting this out to sealed bid due to that, in a more, without proceeding to explore that opportunity because of the interest from the family that was expressed. So with future properties, I had a conversation with Jana Richards, our economic development developer, who has an interest in housing, obviously, because it drives the, economic development in our area to have adequate housing. So that was a conversation that was initiated by her and something that we will continue to explore going forward with future properties if we have suitable properties that are coming up for potential sale by the city. But this one, unfortunately, just didn't really meet that criteria, and we haven't done that in the past, so it was something we were going to have to explore the legality of and what exactly we can do.
Sue, could you remind the council of the liens that were due, what taxes were still owed on it versus how much was bid for the house?
Well, the taxes it was just over, I believe, $7,000. It was really close to that. That's just taxes, though. There were other fees
The
that were.
inspection, I remember.
Right, well, that were incurred, and it also, the minimum bid included 10% of the assessed value, which is what we asked for.
Is it as simple as whatever, if we take, say, that highest bid, 7,000 plus whatever else is owed to the city will get paid to the city, and the rest of the money also goes
To the
to
city.
the city?
Mhm. Yes.
Seems pretty good. Like a win-win. And it's zoned residential,
Yes.
so. Okay.
Move to accept the highest bid.
I'll second that motion.
Do we need any more?
May I point over? May I speak?
If you want to speak on the subject, you.
Hi, Gordon Workman, resident of Ellsworth. I do believe at the last council meeting on this issue, or the one before that, if one of the members were going to place a bid, I do believe it was highly recommended that they would, and that would be considered before any and all bids. If they have. Have they placed a bid for the members of the family that owned the house?
The minimum.
All right. I'm just saying that should go back to the family.
That's not in the ordinance, though, so.
So I just wanted to check before we moved your motion. Do we need any specific language? Or is that sufficient, just?
The motion that I made.
Yeah,
There's a suggested motion in there.
yeah, there was at the bottom of the memo.
Oh, well, I can say that.
I can read
Hold
it.
on. No, I will.
Okay.
Move to approve council order, which number is it? Whatever
I don't
it
have
is.
my-
Request of the tax collector and deputy treasurer to accept the bid from the highest bidder as indicated above and release said property through a quit claim deed.
So that's the motion. Did you still want a second?
I'll second the motion.
So we have a motion and a second, so now we have discussion.
So the family members did bid?
And there was some discussion at the last meeting that we had definitely discussed the possibility of giving it back to the family member if we had to go through this process first in order to meet the requirements of the ordinance. So,
Right, but according to the ordinance,
Yes.
the council has the right to refuse any and all bids.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
Councilor Beal?
The name on the lowest bid is the previous owner that is deceased, correct?
It's his son.
It's his son.
Yeah. We sent a letter to the council, I think we read last meeting.
Yeah.
And he's not in the area, correct?
He's in Brewer, I believe.
Oh, so it's not, he's in state, he's not far away.
He's in the state,
Yeah.
yeah.
So he's not planning on living there?
No. I mean, I'm assuming not. He hasn't lived there for a while.
I do think, I agree. I mean, we had the discussion. The unfortunate thing is that, we follow the process, and we get to a certain point, and it's the point of no return in terms of following it. So we did have to take this next step in terms of doing that. And he did present the letter which we received in the last meeting in terms of that particular issue. So I do think, personally, whenever we can return property, the city is not in the business of acquiring property and selling it and making a profit. That's not the intent. The intent is that if a property is abandoned, to cover whatever costs are due or expenses that are due and to recover that. I quickly looking at this, they're easily over half of the bidders are investment type of entities looking to make a profit off of that. So for me, I don't think there's any violation in terms of we're allowed to, as a council, select what we think is most appropriate for whatever reason. There's nothing that mandates us to take the highest bid. And I think in this case, personally, I would like to see it go back to the family member, just based on that. I think it speaks better of the city to do something like that than to take the highest bidder. Obviously, we don't know all the circumstances and history, and we could go down that rabbit hole as well, but based on what I know, that's where I would stand on it.
And I felt quite strongly that the family members may not have been notified of anything the whole time, since the postmaster was signing all the notification letters,
But,
if I remember right.
yeah, but he acknowledged in the letter that he knew.
Well, he knew that he didn't say he knew it was gonna be taken. He knew that he was, you know,
He knew that he didn't pay the taxes.
I knew I didn't pay mine before too, but
I would also just add, and this is just for thought-provoking reasons, is the same, we don't know what those individuals are gonna do to the property. You don't know what the son's plans are for the property either. I mean, he could turn around and
Sure.
sell it for a significant profit, and then we put forth good faith and doing the right thing, but then passed up on an opportunity for a significant amount of money to come into the city in a time where certainly every dollar helps, so.
this has to be voted on tonight.
Well, there's a motion, it will go wherever it goes, in terms of, there could be multiple motions, this motion could pass. It could be a motion not to, I mean, so there's no guarantee that it gets passed. but-
My personal thoughts is, you know, I like to see it go back to the family too, but if they're gonna live there, or, you know, if he's just gonna turn around and sell it in 6 months from now, I agree with, you know, if he was gonna live there, which I guess, or if you said, look, you can't sell it for 10 years, we're doing like a charity thing here, giving it back to you on the understanding that
I
you
don't
have some
think we
sentimental value to
Yeah,
it.
I don't think we can, though,
can't.
do with that. I don't
Can't
think we can
dictate it.
add anything in the deed.
So at present, we do have a motion and a second, so that's what we're going to be voting on in a minute, so. Are there other comments?
I just think that we have a responsibility to the citizens of the city to do the best with what we have as far as helping with financing the city. And if it's just because it's an investment property for the family, or if it's an investment property for someone else, I think it's up to us to make that decision of what's best for us, citizens, and for our taxpayers.
We ready for a vote? Okay, all those in favor? All those opposed? It's- Well, Robert's rules, hang on. So we obviously do not have a majority, so that means that the motion does not pass. So that motion fails. Is there any other action that anybody wants to propose?
I propose requesting a letter of intent, if that's really what's kind of staying our votes here. Maybe a letter of intent from the two considerations, the highest bid and sounds like the other consideration, which is the family member. And if the question is, what do you plan to do with this property? And that will help inform us, we could request that for next meeting.
Can we do that?
I mean,
We're not gonna
if
sell
you're not
tonight.
gonna, if you're not gonna make a decision right now, I guess we can. I just don't know that, I mean, you could say anything in a letter. It's not really gonna make a difference in the end as to what they do with it.
If I
Councilor
may,
Beal.
we
It
had
might
sealed
make a
bid-
difference to me.
Well, we had sealed bids.
Yeah.
So if we don't do anything tonight, you're gonna have to put it
We'll
back
have to
out
put
to
out
bid
bid,
or do
absolutely.
something different. You can't take, these bids are gonna be null and void. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
It's,
So, and I, this, the, I can't
So we can
remember.
set a price for what we want for it as well.
A minimum.
So a minimum bid.
We did.
above and beyond what
Above and
this
beyond
is.
this.
We've
Just
met the
look at-
requirements of the ordinance, now we can set an amount. If we kind of meeting both, say we want 50,000 for this piece of property, we can set that to a minimum of 50,000.
So I would personally suggest that we don't accept, we obviously didn't accept the bids tonight. So to have it come back next month, let's take some time and look, I can't remember the ordinance, and I apologize.
That, yeah,
But,
I have to check.
I would have to
the-
look it up, but I think that there's another process if it doesn't pass that we could go to and look at it next month.
Could you send that ordinance to us?
It's actually.
I think I
If I could
did.
get
Oh,
my
you did. It's
computer to
in
work,
here.
but it
Yeah,
died.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Again, I
Can we
can't
still-
look it up, I'm sorry.
no, that's okay.
But you're
Councilor
saying it's in the packet?
Not
No,
this-
your ordinances are right online.
City
Oh, I
website.
thought you
Oh,
said you sent
but I
them.
did, I don't know that it's in this month.
Okay.
I had sent it in the.
Yeah.
December.
In
Right.
last
It's
month.
Of November, I
So
think.
it's in that packet.
But I can send it to you again.
That's okay, if it's in November's packet,
Yeah.
I can find it.
Yeah.
And we can look and we'll discuss it next month, but we can't do anything with the bids that we've opened and
Right,
So we have to return all those.
recorded.
right. Yeah, because, Councilor Mo.
So I think we can make a recommend, or a motion to reject all bids as presented. So that's my motion. Can I make a motion?
So we have a motion.
Second.
Okay.
And a second. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion passes. So the motion passed that we're rejecting all bids with the recommendation that what we would like is to have you come back next month so we can walk through the ordinance, understand exactly what we need to do for next steps, and then we can make an informed decision about the process and make sure
Okay.
that we follow the process correctly from this point forward.
Okay.
Yeah. Councilor Stein.
I'd just like to make a comment. Sue earlier today sent me some information. It seems there are at least 5 other properties in Ellsworth ranging from a value, assessed value from about 50,000 to about 200,000 that are, as far as I know, sitting there either not making the town money or losing money. So it seems like we're not in the real estate game, and things could get really complex if we don't clearly follow the ordinance, which seems to be doing the fiscally responsible thing, taking the highest bids. I do think there should be some consideration for intent, because we'd like to see the town move in certain ways, but we only have so much sway there. So, thanks.
Sure.
Yes.
My name's Terry Willett, and I'm just here in the audience. My question was, has this happened before, and do we have a track record for what the city has done in the past? It would seem that this is not the first time maybe someone's lost their property. So I just didn't know if there's a history, because I do think how we act as a city is important. But, there is, like you said, there's a lot to think about. So I just didn't know if there was a history.
So I can give you the answer you probably won't like, just based on your comment. It's, the ordinance allows for the council and the composition of the council to accept or reject any bid for any reason. So the precedent in terms of what other councils have done with property may or may not have bearing on that council that is taking up that issue, because it's up to whoever's sitting around this table is going to make that decision. So yes, there's a history. The city has acquired properties and have sold them at bid. My assumption is that if you look back over time, that there's probably some variation in what drove that decision. And that's where the ordinance has that flexibility. It's not that black and white of we will accept the highest bid. And so it has that opportunity to change based on the people sitting around this table.
Thanks for the explanation. I'm learning a little bit about our city government. Thank you.
I don't know if anybody else wants to weigh in on that.
There's also been revisions to that ordinance that even since I left, so I can't think that's why. I want to make sure that.
Okay. Item 11, Council Order Number 010904, request of the city planner to discuss and take action on proposed amendments to Chapter 56, which would modify existing standards to regulate solar energy systems and energy storage systems in the city. Proposed amendments to Chapter 56 include the following: refine existing permitted categories in Article 3, Section 307, Table of Land Uses, create clearer expectations for solar projects throughout Article 8, Section 823, solar energy systems, and streamline the definitions for standalone solar energy systems in Article 14, definitions. An additional proposed amendment to Chapter 56 will also be heard, amend the major use site development review applicability threshold in Article 6, Section 603 to 604, and obviously this was written by the city planning.
And Dale, I could have saved you all of that, but I'll turn it to Matt and he can explain that there's a issue, so.
So I have to apologize to council and to members of the public who came for this particular agenda item. When I was the assistant planner, filling in as interim, I made a schedule for trying to get this through planning board and present to council. And I had planned for a January 16th council meeting originally, because I didn't think about the holiday. And we caught that somewhat early on for the rest of the process, the citywide mailing, the public notice and all of that. But one thing I didn't catch was the requirement in the ordinance for a 10-day waiting period between the planning board recommendation and council's discussion and vote on the ordinance changes. So it's only been 5 days since the planning board recommended it last week. So I'm going to ask that the council vote to remove this agenda item from tonight's agenda, and then with the intent to bring it in February when there'll be more than 10 days have passed. But I will be doing a second mailing to the city as well for that.
So I'm going to have to read that again. That's all I'm hearing.
I'll try and shorten it for you.
Maybe we could just play back the recording.
That's right.
But I do apologize.
I have a question about the procedure as well.
Yes.
There needs to be a public hearing on this? The public hearing will be at the following meeting?
The public hearing would have been, at this agenda
It would be,
item, yeah.
so anytime there's an item that requires a public hearing that comes before us, we'll open it up for a public hearing, which allows the public to comment on that, and then we'll close the public hearing and then take action at that point.
And there can be a vote the same day?
Which cannot happen tonight.
But it can't happen tonight because of the notice.
Because it hasn't had a waiting period.
Because of the procedural error, technically, we shouldn't really even discuss the agenda item. It should just, the motion should be made to remove it from the agenda since we're not within the 10 days.
Motion to remove from the agenda so that we are following our own policy and procedure, and to place it on the February agenda.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous?
Thank you.
Thanks. Item 12, Council Order Number 010905, request of the Finance Director to encumber funds for certain accounts.
Okay, so I'm a little flat-footed on this. The actual acting finance director put this on. But essentially, because the fiscal year '22 audit isn't finished yet, some of these, I guess this is the planning board and the historic preservation committee are asking to have the funds from fiscal year '22 encumbered because they haven't been utilized. So historic preservation is $6,300 for a survey that they want to do, and planning is $35,000 for the comp plan funding for fiscal year '22.
Council Beal?
Move to approve the request of the finance director to encumber certain appropriation accounts as presented.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
The first one?
I'll be encumbering.
Good night, thank you.
A lot of people looking up the definition.
I
of
did
word
have to Google
encumber.
Move forward. Bring it. Item 13, executive session to discuss legal matters in accordance with MRSA Title I, Chapter 13, Section 405, Paragraph 6E. Is there a motion?
Motion to go into executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? And for the public, we will not be reporting out after this session, so we will be adjourning from the executive session.
Can I take a quick break to go talk to?
Yes.
I want a new one.
We'll slow